You probably know that landscape architects work with plants. We do and we love it, but we use them in really interesting ways that you may not have realized. And we do so much more than pick out plants. In this podcast series, we invite professionals in our field to talk about what excites them about the profession of landscape architecture and the wide variety of things they do. We will explore the many ways that landscape architects positively impact the world. Landscape architecture is a diverse practice that shapes the way we experience and move through our cities and communities, guides our responses to climate and environmental changes, brings forward our public histories, and so much more. We at the University of Colorado Denver Department of Landscape Architecture are excited that you are interested in our field. Please join us as we discover what many people don't know about landscape architecture.
We are joined today by Adrian Flynt, who is a Boulder native and the sales and design manager at Native Edge Associates. He studied architecture at CU Boulder and later earned his master's in landscape architecture from CU Denver, where he discovered his passion for outdoor design. Today, he leads the team at Native Edge and oversees the company's sales and maintenance operations. Adrian, thanks for joining the podcast today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Can you tell us about the business model of Native Edge Landscapes? It's a bit different from traditional landscape architecture firms.
Yeah, absolutely. So Native Edge Landscapes, we are what we would call a design build landscape construction company. So it's a bit different from a traditional or what you might see a lot of landscape architecture firms being, in that essentially I think it's just about a relationship with the owner of a project. So in a traditional landscape firm, you would be like on a project, you would be paid by an owner or owner representative, and then you would be providing, idea generation, bid drawings, permit and construction drawings, construction support, change management for the project. But oftentimes the owner is also going to then be paying a construction firm to, provide bids on your bid drawings, and then ultimately hire a construction firm to build the project and provide the labor, the equipment, the materials, and everything. And then from there, the design firm and the construction firm coordinate, but usually kind of through the owner or the drawings that are paid. So the owner is paying a design firm and a construction firm. And usually I like to summarize it, at least in my opinion, that a traditional landscape architect, you are paid for essentially drawings that you produce. That is your end result, and then that's what you get paid for. In a design build firm, we pair the design and the construction together under one roof. So in theory, that adds efficiencies, and it's simpler for the owner. So the owner is just talking to one firm, and then within the firm, we're doing the idea generation, concept design, and cost estimating, any necessary permit drawings, internal and coordination construction drawings, and doing the construction change management. And at the end, we also provide maintenance services.
Why is this model good fit for your interests, and what do you like about landscape architecture?
Yeah, so it's a good fit for my personal interests, and what I like about the design build model is that you get a lot of feedback since you're designing projects, but you're also on the hook for building them. You learn an awful lot about kind of construction detailing, pricing. You get to see a lot of your projects built, which is not necessarily the case. I think in some larger firms, you get a lot of interaction and feedback from the construction teams, and you get to see, for a specific number of our projects, them maintained over several years. And you learn a lot from that. So I think it's a great feedback loop. And that's one of the reasons that I really like it. You would also find, I think, that design build firms, not always, but traditionally, it's usually a smaller scale of project. So it's typically residential versus, city projects and big park projects and things like that tend to have that more traditional, like owner, design firm, construction firm, property management team. So smaller scale of project, but you do get to work with just like a homeowner or, a family. So it's usually a little bit easier, I think, in the design process to come to agreement on the concepts and the goals and the budget. Where sometimes, I think in the larger projects, you're often having to present to boards of people, and it's a lot harder to get kind of buy off. I think in the initial stages, it's a lot more work.
Can you give us an example of a few ways that you wish other landscape architecture firms took maintenance into account when they were designing?
Yeah, absolutely. I would recommend just any potential landscape architect who is listening to this is I would highly recommend that you both work in the field if you can get a job in construction for like a season or a summer intern or something. It's super helpful. And I'd also really recommend to designers that they do the same thing for a summer and work on a maintenance crew. I think you'll learn a lot about that side of things. Traditionally, or I guess a lot of the things I talked to a lot of people at my firm about this, and from what I've seen, some things to focus on when you're designing is to one, just think about the maintenance. I think oftentimes people don't even think about it. So what are we gonna, what is necessary? So understanding like the types of landscapes you have in your project, right? Is it sod? Is it a garden bed? Is it a native area? Or it's a group of trees? Is it a hardscape? Pretty much every single element is going to have a maintenance cycle where it's going to either need care, water, pruned, cleaned up, trimmed, replanted. Hardscapes do need to be repaired. So just kind of understanding your design, and you can look at the lens of the design of like how often is it going to need maintenance, and then how complicated is that maintenance in order to keep the design intent intact. So I'd encourage one, just making sure you're looking and thinking about that. The second part is that all of the maintenance is going to require access. So, super cool terrace projects and things can look really awesome, big fields and things, but do understand that there's a certain degree of we're going to need to get people and machines and mowers, in and out of these spaces. Usually there's going to be secondary construction projects that happen over time if things need to be replanted. Most of the things in Colorado, almost all the things in Colorado have irrigation systems and require irrigation. So when those need to be maintained, you know, where are they located? Are they easy to get to? Are they super hard to get to? All of these things can really either make maintenance easier in the long run, which can then facilitate a successful project, I think, because we look at our projects in terms of how they're 3, 5, 10 years from now versus just the year after they're built as they grow in, especially in landscaping. So I'd say that complexity, right? Access. And then I think a big thing that is generally missed, overlooked, or just really hard to do would be communication of both management expectations, management requirements, and budget, and kind of thinking about that in the initial design and construction phase. And specifically, in terms of what I mean by that, is oftentimes things are lost right at the end of a construction project that would then inform whoever's going to take over the maintenance. So sometimes in a design build firm, we're lucky enough to take over the maintenance of our own projects. So we kind of have everything in house, and we have a record of, the initial plan, the irrigation as built. You could even talk to the designer to get a sense of what the intent is. Um, a lot of that stuff gets lost, I think, in a lot of projects between when it's finished. And then what can happen is that the construction company might maintain it for a year. They might not maintain it at all. And so another group, like another property manager or another maintenance company, is going to come in, and essentially an individual is going to take over managing that project. And it varies heavily on if they actually have any information at all regarding the initial design and investment, right? What the gardens were intended to be, what the planting palette was. Do they have information on what potential alternative plants might be really nice if we're going for a certain area, but you do see die off? Um, where your irrigation and all that stuff is, even if there's specifications on what we recommend in terms of like the style of pruning or the progression of plantings. If that stuff isn't communicated to the account manager, then it becomes essentially a lot of the time you just see projects where they just default to either what's least expensive or easiest. And I've seen that the project can kind of get destroyed 5-10 years down the road where perennial planting beds are replanted but completely not in context with the original design intent. Shrubs are all pruned inconsistently and they're not left to the heights that they want to be. There's really tough access for certain areas in terms of like mowing or pruning, and you can kind of just see that they get left out or stop being taken care of. If irrigation systems are really difficult to manage or work on, you'll see a lot of die off because it's really expensive to pay people to do that. So there's an awful lot there, I think, in my opinion, that can be done at the end of a construction project to facilitate really, really good management. But a challenge in the industry is, again, that's hard enough for us to do internally. It's something that we're working on constantly. It gets really, really difficult, I think, in the traditional construction model where you have like an owner, a design firm, a construction firm, and then a property manager will come in and take over maintenance later. And if nobody's really being paid or it's not on anybody's radar to package up that kind of maintenance construction set, what I'd say, or maintenance guidance package or education package, then oftentimes that property management company comes in and takes over maintenance without any context.
Well, thanks, Adrian, for answering all our questions. I think that's all we had today. We really appreciate you joining the podcast.
Alrighty. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to our podcast, Something Else About Landscape Architecture. The Department of Landscape Architecture at the University of Colorado, Denver offers multiple paths of study to fit your career aspirations. We invite you to visit our website, ucdenver.edu/landscape, or follow us on Instagram at CUDenver Landscape Arch.